Is Ysl Y Eau de Parfum an acceptable thing to spray on nowadays? Or is it overused? Does it still smell good? Or should you say bye-bye and banish it from your collection? Adios amigo. Some say you can't use it anymore because apparently this is even more popular nowadays than Sauvage Eau de Toilette. I've talked about Ysl Y Eau de Parfum so much, but I've never done a full in-depth review of it. So in this video we're going to go through what it smells like, usage, performance, compliments and mass appeal, and even some alternatives, and also if you still can use it nowadays. I've been enjoying Y Eau de Parfum for years. I believe this is my second bottle of it. And by the end of this video, you are going to know if I still think this is a good one. Before I begin, let me know how you feel about Ysl Y Eau de Parfum. Do you feel this is a good or bad one? And how would you rate Ysl Y Eau de Parfum from 1 to 10? And do you feel it's still a good fragrance, or do you think it's overused? So the bottle is basically like the other ones in the line, and I actually like the design of these. I can't remember what I paid for my bottles of Y Eau de Parfum, but nowadays these go for anywhere between like 60 to 70 bucks for 60 ml. We have bergamot, apple and ginger at the top, sage, juniper berries and geranium at the heart of it, and amberwood, tonka bean, cedar, vetiver and olibanum at the base. So I'm gonna get to compliments and mass appeal, performance, usage and more in a short while, but let's start with what it smells like, and this is one I actually want on myself as well. Okay, this on my skin opens up in a gorgeously fresh way. The ginger is definitely pushing through. You have a bit of citrusy freshness in here as well. This is a zesty, vibrant, but at the same time quite smooth dose of intense freshness. So the sage is listed as a heart note, but I'm picking up on it right away in the opening. So Y Eau de Parfum basically opens up in a spicy, citrusy and aromatic fresh way. The freshness of it is quite intense, but I do feel it's also quite smooth. And the smoothness of it is what I think one of the reasons why this is such a likable scent. So the more it moves away from the opening and into the heart of it, the more you start getting what I think is one of the absolute best parts of it, which is it's quite intense but smooth aromatic side. Sage and geranium smells absolutely fantastic when done right in fragrances. I'm sort of obsessed with that combo. And that part to me is really what makes Y Eau de Parfum so good. If this would not have been as aromatic in the way it is, then I believe this would not have been as good. The drawdown is where Y Eau de Parfum, at least on my skin, changes quite a bit, and it changes into something that to me is quite sort of woody with the aromatic side right behind it. Now the woodiness of Y Eau de Parfum is definitely prominent, but to me it's prominent, but prominent in a sort of a soft way. I don't think there's anything about its woody side that is sort of a sharp or too intense in any way. So it's quite woody. You still have that fantastic aromatic side going on. Here's the sort of a weird thing. Sometimes when I spray it on, I get the apple in the opening, but a lot of the times I'm actually getting the apple in the dry down. So basically most of the times when I spray Ysl Y Eau de Parfum on, I'm getting a dry down that's a mix of woodiness, like prominent but soft woodiness, the fantastic aromatic side with the sage, juniper berries and the geranium, together with the apple. The apple on my skin gives to the whole thing this really nice fruitiness, a bit of sweetness as well. So Y Eau de Parfum opens up with this zesty, vibrant freshness, and then it moves into something that to me is pretty much dominated by an aromatic kind of freshness that is quite smooth. And the drawdown is a mix of woodiness, that fantastic aromatic side with a bit of fruitiness and a bit of sweetness. So what's the vibe of Ysl Y Eau de Parfum? We can definitely have this sort of a casual, sort of a fresh out of the shower kind of vibe to it, but it can also definitely be this sort of a classy and elegant and sort of a formal kind of scent. But the vibe here is definitely one that's quite sexy. So is Y Eau de Parfum a compliment getting kind of scent? This is basically a mix of freshness with a bit of woodiness and a bit of fruitiness and a bit of sweetness. That combo done this way is an extremely compliment getting one. It is very hard. I'm actually gonna say it's pretty much impossible to go wrong with a scent like this when we're talking about mass appeal. When it comes to performance, I'm rating Y Eau de Parfum 7 to 7.5 out of 10 when it comes to both projection and longevity. So this actually has quite good performance, but even so, I'm definitely spraying a bit more with this just because of the way it develops with a bit more sprays. So it has good performance. However, I do recommend to spray a bit more simply because of the way it develops with a few more sprays. So let's talk about the usage, so like how you should use Y Eau de Parfum. So I'm gonna link to my best everyday fragrances for men video above, so make sure you check that video out. Some absolute bangers in that video, including Y Eau de Parfum. This is a bit fresh, but it's definitely not a freshie. It does have a bit of depth to it, but I do not feel Y Eau de Parfum is a scent that is too heavy, too deep, too sweet, or anything like that. So this, to me, is like the perfect everyday fragrance for men. So what that means is basically any season and any occasion. I use Y Eau de Parfum throughout the year to pretty much any occasion. I do use this summertime, wintertime, anytime, anywhere. School, work, date night, when you're going out, really doesn't matter. Use this anytime, anywhere. And yes, I've worn this even to the gym. So who is Y Eau de Parfum for? Maybe we should sort of turn that around. Who is it not for? I mean, this is one of my favorite everyday fragrances for a reason. This is extremely mass appealing, and I do feel most will enjoy getting whiff of this. However, I guess if you don't like aromatic focus scents, especially with like sage and geranium, then you should probably stay away. Or if you don't like apple or fruitiness in fragrances, then definitely make sure you stay away. I do think there's a bit of sweetness in the dry end of Y Eau de Parfum, so if you are super sensitive to any sort of a kind of sweetness in fragrances, then definitely make sure you stay away. But I do feel Y Eau de Parfum is a fragrance that you should try on your skin and see how it develops and if you like it. So let's talk about some of the alternatives to Y Eau de Parfum, and there are actually a lot of them. So the first alternative is Y Eau de Parfum Intense. I do feel these actually share quite a few similarities. However, I do feel Y Eau de Parfum Intense is the smoother version of Y Eau de Parfum. It's definitely not as fresh as Y Eau de Parfum, and it doesn't have the fruitiness and sweetness that Y Eau de Parfum has. Y Eau de Parfum Intense is in a way the smoother and more classy and elegant version of Y Eau de Parfum. I think they unfortunately discontinued Y Eau Fresh, so that means that the Y EdT is the sort of a freshest in the line, and this basically strips away a lot of the depth that this one has and focuses more on a brighter and lighter kind of freshness. Y EdT is basically all about a nuanced dose of freshness, so it's a bit citrusy fresh, a bit spicy fresh, and definitely has a gorgeous dose of aromatic freshness to it. The EdT is basically when you want the freshest version of Y. Moving away from the Y line for alternatives outside it, we definitely have to take a look at Sauvage Eau de Parfum. So Sauvage Eau de Parfum to me is basically the smoother version of Sauvage, and I also feel it's the more sort of a nuanced and exciting version of Sauvage. I mean, everyone knows about Sauvage Eau de Parfum by now, but this is basically all about a nuanced dose of freshness. This has definitely quite a prominent dose of freshness to it. It's a bit ambery and softly woody with a gorgeous dose of lavender. These two are definitely not the same, but I do feel that Sauvage Eau de Parfum and Y Eau de Parfum falls into the same sort of a category of everyday kind of fragrances that you can use throughout the year to pretty much any occasion. Another alternative is Armaf Club de Nuit Iconic, which is basically heavily inspired by one of the most sort of a versatile fragrances for men, which is Bleu de Chanel. This is very affordable, smells great, and another great choice as an everyday kind of fragrance. The next alternative is Versace Dylan Blue. This is another great choice as an everyday fragrance that you can use throughout the year to pretty much any occasion. Dylan Blue also has a nuanced dose of freshness, even though I feel this is more citrusy, intense, fresh than if you compare it to Y Eau de Parfum. This also has a soft kind of woodiness to it, but I do feel both the freshness and woodiness of it is a bit different if you compare it to Y Eau de Parfum. It has ambroxan, violet leaf, saffron, and incense, which definitely pulls this in a different direction. However, I do feel these two fall into the same sort of a category. The next alternative is Raf's Club Parfum, and I actually feel they probably were heavily inspired or actually tried to do their version of Y Eau de Parfum. So this also has a nuanced dose of freshness, even though that freshness is a bit different compared to Y Eau de Parfums. It's also a bit woody, and it actually shares quite a few of the notes of this, even apple. So this also has a fruity aspect to it, and I do feel it. These two actually has quite a few similarities. However, they are not the same. I could go on and on, but those are some great alternatives. So how am I going to rate Ysl Y Eau de Parfum, and is it still a good fragrance? Y Eau de Parfum to me is pretty much the perfect mix of freshness and woodiness. The fruitiness and sweetness of it adds another layer of excitement and sexiness to it. And the aromatic heart of it is, to me, absolutely fantastic and really what makes this thing shine. I really don't care if Y Eau de Parfum is super popular. I absolutely do not care if this has taken the throne away from Sauvage or the Toilette as the most used fragrance for men. It really doesn't matter when it's this good. This is one of my favorite fragrances for everyday use for a reason. Y Eau de Parfum to me is a fantastic feel-good scent. I always smile whenever I spray this one on, and I absolutely love that I can spray this thing on to pretty much any occasion throughout the year and smell good to most people. And I definitely think it deserves a 9 out of 10. So this is definitely going to be my fragrance of the day. Now I would absolutely love to know how you feel about Ysl Y Eau de Parfum and how you would rate it from 1 to 10. Put it in the comments. Please drop a like and subscribe for more. Make sure you check out my other videos over there, and I'll see you in the next one.